Well, hello. It's wonderful to be able to offer a brief reflection as part of this year's Ebor Lecture series, which this year have the very intriguing and timely title of 2020 Vision, Sharpening Our Focus. As someone who's worn corrective lenses for most of their lives, I'm not sure I've ever had what you might call 2020 vision, but I'm grateful for all that my glasses enable me to see literally on a day-to-day basis. And 2020 vision, of course, while it's about sharpening our focus and seeing and acknowledging the things that are in front of our eyes, there's also a deeper sense of seeing and vision, which we're being asked to reflect on, particularly at this time during the COVID-19 crisis. As Bishop of Ripon, I spend quite a lot of my time in rural communities. And one thing that always strikes me about the rural people and the communities and villages that I visit is their really deep sense of place and purpose, and how their lives and the generations of families that have farmed the land are literally interwoven with the fabric of the land. The people might not endure, but the land certainly does. It reminds me of a proverb that I was once taught by Maori in New Zealand when I was in my previous role in the Waikato region of the North Island. Earlier this year, I and many others travelled to Oxford to be part of the Oxford Farming Conference. And this year, the theme of that conference was growing a healthy society. That, of course, was before COVID arrived. And it's been really interesting looking back at the notes that I took at that conference as I've been reflecting on these past weeks and months of lockdown and thinking about what's important and what needs to be developed and brought forward, and what perhaps we need to stop doing and move on from. One of the first sessions at that Oxford Farming Conference took on the topic of diversity and inclusion in farming. It was, in many ways, quite a brave topic to tackle, and one that seems particularly prescient in light of recent weeks and the whole flourishing of the Black Lives Matter movement. When I was in New Zealand, there was quite a lot of debate about the relationship between Maori and between the people who in many ways were called other. The Maori word is Pakeha, the European colonisers, for want of a better term. And a lot of debate about what it meant, for example, to have colonisers' statues stand in cities and in regions. Just what part did those statues have to play in a land where land itself had been confiscated? One of the things that I was always reminded of by Maori was, yes, the importance of challenging the narrative and the way that is presented in the form of statues and inscriptions, but also finding positive ways of telling stories, in this case of the Indigenous people. But we might want to broaden that out and think about whose stories do we need to be listening to and better telling in our contemporary age. That opening session at the Oxford Farming Conference reflected quite a lot on the dangers of tribalism and polarisation in arguments, where conversations can be more like threats with angry and contested issues. Language, of course, is always performative. And perhaps we need to give some thought to how we phrase opinions in our own voice and how we encourage others to do likewise. Particularly, how does leadership break or reinforce a narrative? I think we've seen quite a lot of quite tribalism and polarising arguments in recent weeks. And I'd like to think that our leaders can break narratives, but I rather think we've seen more of the reinforcement of old narratives, or perhaps narratives that aren't so healthy and helpful when we're trying to build a better society or think about a 2020 focus. What does it mean to sharpen our focus so that our vision of what the world can be, the vision of what our communities can be something life-giving and not life-draining? I've no doubt that we're seeing a sea change in all sorts of things in our society on local, national and global scale. And what's becoming more important, particularly as we're engaging more online, is a sense of celebration in the connectivity of people but also, of course, the people that aren't able to connect because they cannot access online facilities. We must make sure, as we sharpen our focus and head into a broader vision of what society can be, that nobody is left behind. What does it mean to belong to society in a way that is safe, secure, but also understood? How can we be better at understanding others as well as ourselves? And maybe that 2020 vision needs to take into account the challenges of that process. So I look forward to what that 2020 vision might be, and I look forward to how each one of us in our own way can be part of the sharpening of that focus. I always like to think of the kingdom of God as already present. We're just trying to reveal it in our midst. And so I think that that 2020 vision is perhaps looking for how our communities can be a little bit more like the kingdom of God, that kingdom where no one's left behind, but where everyone is included and everyone can flourish.